At the T-minus 3-minute mark, tape recorders on board the spacecraft were turned on. These recorders record both voice and data. Now building up to 7.7 million pounds of thrust. And we have a liftoff. Moving back. The Saturn V lifting off of Alpha pad.
This is WOMM LP operating out of Burlington, Vermont, 105.9 The Radiator. I'm your host for this evening, Tom Proctor. And before we get into tonight, I want to talk about the Make Music VT. It is an international festival that's happening in 1,000 cities around the world, 120 countries, and it's happening on June 21st. The general idea is you get out and you play music in a random place with random people. It's a come one, come all music festival, and you can be one of the musicians on the bill and even sign up your home or favorite spot in town to be a stage. So you can find out more information and sign up at bigheavyworld.com/makemusic. So go check that out. It's going to be pretty amazing. And even if you don't want to play, you can go and see some pretty fantastic spots around town where great music will be happening. So now back to our regularly scheduled program. It's a Rocket Shop. Good evening. And with me tonight it is Ian Steinberg. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
Well, we usually kick it off with a song. So you guys want to introduce what you've got and take it away?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I just released an album yesterday. It's called Guidance, and we're going to play the eponymous song off that album.
Well,
Called Guidance. That's what eponymous means. I can't seem to pick my eyes up off the ground. Every fork leads me back to where I've been before. Tell me, stranger, how do I pick the rubber from my jaw? My legs keep me going when the rest of me is dead. Where's the sign pointing clear direction in a straight line? Tell me, lover, how do I free this hour come to pass? Pleading for guidance.
Oh, so good already then. Wanted to join in at the end.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful song. And so that was let me just get this right, the
Eponymous.
so close.
Yeah.
Song of your new album, Guidance. So I had a little look at the bio of that, and I listened to a few songs on it. And you've got a lot to say on this record. So do you want to take me through a few themes you have on the album?
Yeah. Well, I'd say the overarching aspect of the album is like it's an oral journey of my experience going into and working through depression. And I would say that I'm in a much better place right now, which is wonderful, but I wouldn't say I'm out of it because, it's a lifetime thing. But it kind of, each of the songs is an experience or a feeling kind of manifested in music and lyrics and whatnot, whether or not they're like actual experiences of loss of friends or family, or even a sense of self. I'd say that's kind of the root of it.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And so does each track on the album have a particular kind of moment you're talking about, or is it all kind of an overarching look at mental health and depression and the experiences you've had with that?
Yeah, I'd say certain songs are definitely like a moment and an experience. Like there's a track that we're gonna play soon called "And Now," which is about one of my good friends who had an overdose and died. But and now that was a tough experience, and that's like a direct reaction to that. And is kind of carried through that. Then there are other songs like the first track on the album, "Bad Luck." It isn't any direct experience of mine. It's kind of just a feeling of like being down and out and whatnot through the lens of like a story I made up, more or less, So there are some things, and then there's like in between tracks, like little interludes, like Poppy's Last Message, which is literally a voicemail from my grandma or grandpa Poppy, and or Fatima, which is reading from the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but yeah. So it kind of moves all over the place, but I feel like there is an overarching theme, but each song kind of like touches on its own little thing, and hopefully, if you listen to it, you can experience the connection between each one and kind of the path that it follows. But yeah.
And well, I thought you were coming solo tonight. You got the rest of your band with you, or a selection of your band. Would you like to introduce them? Well,
yeah, we got Dane Duffy right here on electric and lead guitar, and then this is Lucas Tabschi on bass.
Lucas, we've had in a few times now, always with a different band.
Yeah, he's prolific in the area.
I gotta say, it was a beautiful guitar solo. How do you guys kind of come together and craft the band songs as one, or do you yourself, Ian, do you kind of compose the whole thing to get on your own?
Well, the album itself, I worked on it almost entirely on my own in my bedroom. So almost all the parts minus the drums are written and played by me. So when I had Dane and Lucas join me, I was kind of like, here are these parts, but also, here's what I did, but also you can do something cool with it. And I like to think that they made it much better. And also, it's nice to give a different experience live than, listening to the album itself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you mentioned on your site that this is your debut indie folk album, and your first experience creating a full studio album. So how did this differ from your previous records?
Well, I only have one other EP out, and that was done when I was in college. It was a full band thing. I recorded it with my friend Vito Cicarella, who's actually in Dead Shakers. I don't know if you know them, but they're a band in the area. And I'd say it's different because those songs were kind of just like, here are some songs that I wrote, and they're on an EP. And this one is definitely a more fleshed out, thought out, like embodiment and representation of who I am as a person and a musician, I'd say. Yeah.
Why was now the time for an album? And when did you start kind of putting this together and the idea kind of formulate? And tell me the journey from conception to creation.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. So I was working on it. I used to live in California, and I was doing a bunch of demos. I had a lot of these songs written. Like, some of these songs I wrote in high school. So they've been simmering under the surface for, almost a decade now. And I put all these demos together, and I thought, what would go well together? And there were like 20 songs, and like I trashed a bunch of them, and maybe I'll save some for another time. But as I was in California and leaving there, I was kind of having this really intense experience, and the way it manifested when I came back is like some of these songs really, I attached myself more to them. And then as I whittled it down, it came into kind of what it is today in terms of concept and the journey that I was talking about and those experiences. So, yeah. And some of the stuff, I like one of the songs, Honey, Won't You Come Back Home, I wrote last year while I was already recording some of the other stuff. And I was like, oh, this should go on, so it's kind of taken from all points of my life, which I think is kind of accurate for what I'm trying to represent, because it's kind of like, here I am,
And you're a sound engineer yourself, so did you put the album? Did you master and create the whole thing yourself?
I did all the writing, recording, producing, mixing. My friend Gabe Millman, known as G Mills on Spotify, he did all the mastering. And the drums were recorded by my friend Isaac, who also plays the drums. So I didn't do that part. But yeah, everything else was me. So it was just me in my bedroom with, my KM184 and my computer and, this guitar and a couple other instruments, just, doing the whole thing.
Is it easier to record in that more familiar place where where the kitchen is? You can go grab yourself a cup of coffee when you need it, and you've got as much time as you like to kind of ruminate on what you're creating, or does that actually make things harder because you've not got that time constraint, and so you can end up procrastinating forever?
Yes.
All of the above.
It's all of the above for sure. I love working, kind of getting in my own head and being able to really take the time and workshop stuff. Like a lot of the harmonies on there were just me looping and looping and looping for an hour or 2 hours, whatever, just singing into the mic and grabbing what I liked. And then there's also times like when I was mixing, a year and a bit into the project, and I was like, I'm gonna go insane. I've listened to this song 40 million times. I need, So it's a balance for sure. But I at a certain point, once I'd finished all the tracking, I said, this is when I want to have it done. This is when the release is going to be. And that, putting a time constraint on myself really helped me push it through the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any significance to the date you picked in the end?
No, it just happened to be convenient. The release date doesn't really have anything to do with anything. But
fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear another song.
Yeah.
Is it going to be another one from the new album?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Cool. And now? For all you guitar junkies listening, this is an open C with a capo on the 4th fret. That's C, G, C, G, C, E. Okay. The truth will set you free, but only once it's done with you. That spider, it will breathe and wait to snatch it up from you. Your arthritic movements caught up in narcotic truancy. They appear to take advantage of our social fluency. And now the things that happen don't require your permission. In fact, they'll grab you by the neck, shut you up and make you listen. Yours that charm and pricked up arm, the coin tossed up for you. Silky web of devil's thread stole what was left to lose. And now perspective in a rectangle of sky. The loamy rain mixed with the pain of last goodbyes. Flip my shovel round to struggle with the millstone. The shattered husks that gather near to share all that was known. And now I am a man, at least in sentimental value, strapped into your pine box the power shivered into. Now I see how superstitions are created, simple cures for bleak impures that all have faded to. And now
And Now by Ian Steinberg there. And I was just kind of a peek at your lyrics while you were singing that, and they are relatively abstract as lyrics go. So how do you create a song? Is it do you kind of pick up lyrics as you're in the supermarket and just write them down, or is it a kind of case of deliberately sitting down somewhere and really knocking out an entire song?
Yeah, there have been certain points, like Guidance is a perfect example of that last thing you said, where I just sat down. I actually couldn't sleep at night, and I woke up at 2 a.m. and then just wrote the whole thing, more or less, not like in its entirety, but basically wrote out all the lyrics. That song in particular, I knew what I wanted the subject to be about, like the loss of my friend, and I kind of workshop some lyrics, but actually some of those, like the truth will set you free, but only once it's done with you, or the things that happen don't require your permission. Those lines are actually taken. This is going to be the most pretentious thing I've said. From Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. I just ripped those out and then built a song a little bit around that. But then the second 2 verses are all kind of things that I wanted to follow through on, the experience of the funeral, and the third verse, the forced perspective in a rectangle of sky, imagining looking up from the inside of a grave, the loamy rain mixed with the pain of last goodbye, loam dirt, like shoveling dirt into the thing. And then like the last verse, like I am a man, at least in sentimental value, strapped into your pine box, power shivered into, like just kind of like reconciling myself with the experience. So there's things like that. There's other times when I'll just find a nice guitar riff I like or something, and I'll play along with that and kind of just spitball stuff around, see what comes out and write something down that I like. Or sometimes it's like out of nowhere, I'm like, oh, that's a thought. Usually it goes in the garbage bin, but gotta pull from somewhere, right?
I've heard this a lot from musicians. Are you the sort of person to kind of half write a song and then not to force it and leave it for a few weeks or months, and I've heard even years, and then come back to it?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the time, I have a really tough time, like, workshopping inspiration, so to speak. Like, I don't have a regular scheduled thing where I sit down and I'm like, this is my songwriting time, which I should probably be a little more disciplined at, but, we all have our faults. And I'd say that, there's a lot of songs where I start them off. I always this is what happens most frequently is I'll be like, yeah, sweet. I got a first verse and a second verse and kind of a chorus, and then I'll leave it. And it's like, I'm like, yeah, this is sick. And I'll play that over and over again, but I can't push past that. And that's really frustrating, but it's a part of it. And sometimes I go back. Sometimes it's been years. Sometimes it's been days. It's different for each song. And
you somewhat classically trained. You went to a conservatory.
Yeah, Ithaca College. I studied audio engineering there, and part of their curriculum was classical guitar. So I had to do the whole thing,
And how's that shaped the way that you write and create music?
Well, I don't know if the conservatory shaped me too much, other than the fact that I learned that I really didn't like playing classical guitar. But it definitely it made me a better guitarist. The discipline to sit down and practice for 2 hours a day doing that was really, really helpful, and just in terms of my technique. But I've been the first music I really listened to was classical piano, and that's kind of shaped my sense of harmony and or at least I think it has, other than like folk music. I kind of try and like be a little more interesting and dynamic than just like GCD. Or at least I hope that I do. Sometimes I don't, and that's okay too. But like Chopin and Debussy and all those kind of like really interesting, what's the word for it? Can't remember the scale that Debussy uses all the time, but like using just only whole tones. Anyway, whole tone scale. Yeah, there we go. So like that kind of thing, working in those interesting harmonies, I think is like a part of me, and reflects hopefully a little bit.
And so you've been like creating music for the scene since 2013. So where have you got musically that you're aiming to reach? What have you achieved that's been slightly unexpected but surprising in a good or a bad way? And where are you still trying to strive for?
Well, I guess I'm always trying to play more shows and get more involved in the community, and it really helps to have the band for sure. These folks have been super, super helpful, and I'd say like in terms of long-term goals is like see how far we can go if we can. I'm not trying to be like Taylor Swift or anything, but it would be cool to, not have to have a day job. Like that would be sweet. But who knows? And I'm not really like pushing on myself too hard. Like I'm doing the work, I'm throwing out the booking stuff as much as I can and like doing the press releases and whatnot. But I definitely, I'm not like kicking myself like every time I don't hear back from a talent buyer or something like that. And I guess, being in the scene has been really rewarding. What I love about Burlington a lot, especially compared to California, is the sense of actual community. People look out for each other, and work a lot together and support each other. It's not a competitive scene, it's a supporting scene, which is so nice. It's so heartwarming after being in the Bay Area and feeling like I had to like chew and gnaw and, scrabble around for a spot anywhere. So, yeah.
Well, which kind of brings me to my next question, actually. You say you've been influenced by people like Dr. Dog and Tallest Man on Earth, fantastic folk indie bands and singer-songwriter. But locally, who are your influences in the music that you create?
Oh, wow. Well, I really love A Box of Stars. They're actually good friends of mine, Macaulay and Claire and Jens. Jens actually plays on the album, the violinist from that. They're super influential to me. They're kind of like dream folk. I really like the Dead Shakers, the way that Kevin Bloom shapes like soundscapes and stuff is really interesting to me and something I'm kind of aspiring to do in my music. Honey and Soul is phenomenal. That's a trio of ladies who are absolutely wonderful. Cello, guitar, and piano, and their harmonies are like disgustingly beautiful. It's really like hard to not like well up with emotion when I listen to them. And they're like, those are all people I really respect and kind of try and draw from in the area. And there's a ton of other bands I love, like Lucas's bands, Winona and Voices in Vain. Like I don't necessarily incorporate like punk or metal into my music, but it's something like that high energy stuff like definitely is like good to, be a part of and be supporting and that kind of thing.
We've had Box of Stars and Honey and Soul in here, so yeah, it was fantastic having them.
Yeah.
Honey and Soul actually, Julia from there played in my roommate's band, so
cool.
I've got to see her a few times now, which is fantastic. And you'll probably see them pop up on the big screen. At some point. Oh, you'll be up there next week. But just to explain to people who do actually listen, we've got a revolving picture book of the various artists we've had
of course
in the corner of the studio.
Oh yeah, there's Jeff. I think that's in Spunhouse, but he used to play in Bear's Tapestry with me and Bear and those folks. So I play lead guitar for them. But
we're hopefully getting Bear in at some point in the next few weeks as well.
Yeah, Bob. we'll have to
he'll be
poke
on
you.
Anyway. So yeah, that kind of leads me to my last question. Actually, the album was released yesterday, so thank you so much for coming in to here to promote it on the second day that it's been released.
Yeah.
What are you doing in terms of a release party, and what else are you doing to promote the album? Any tours, gigs, anything that you're doing to get yourself out there?
Yeah, this Friday actually is a potluck / concert / CD release show / party at my house. I'm not going to say the address on air, but if you want to like reach out to me on social media and want to come, that would be sweet. But it's going to be us and A Box of Stars, Bear's Tapestry, and Honey and Soul, and a potluck, and then just a good old fashioned party.
That sounds like it's going to be a wonderfully chill party.
It'll be a good time.
Wonderfully chill people.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll get rowdy once, the music's done. But we'll see. Maybe not for my neighbors, but... and then we don't have any tours planned right now. We have a bunch of gigs coming up in July. July 5th at Sidebar, July 27th, I think, at Tap 25, July 28th at... Farmhouse. There's a couple others in there somewhere, I'm sure, but I'm just not remembering off the top of my head. Do you guys remember any others off the top of your head? 18th and 19th? Yeah, 18th and 19th somewhere.
Cool.
August? Is that August? Oh, okay.
Now would be a good time to plug any social media you have that may have all these dates on there.
Oh, yeah, of course. So I have a website, iansteinbergmusic.com, and then you can find me on Instagram, Ian J. Steinberg, Twitter, Ian J. Steinberg, Facebook.com/IanSteinbergMusic, yada, 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 Spotify, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, blah, 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 et cetera,
on all the relevant ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'd love to hear one last song before you to play us out. What have you got?
This one's going to be Honey, Won't You Come Back Home. I just have to tune back to standard real quick, so sorry you have to listen to that on the air. It's an unfortunate necessity.
That's a good cover.
I like to tell this joke, actually.
I feel like the others have heard it before.
Oh, no, definitely not. What is the difference between a cat and a comma?
I'm not sure what's the difference.
One has claws at the end of its paws, and the other is a pause at the end of a clause.
Who doesn't love a good grammar joke?
There are other, I guess, like spoonerisms like that, but... Oh, man. Dane's still learning the songs. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. Yeah. And it's been wonderful having you. And well, maybe I'll find out where the party is on Friday and come see you, all you fantastic people this week.
Yeah, that'd be great. So this is Honey, Won't You Come Back Home? Honey, won't you come back home? I've been really missing you. Honey, won't you come back home? Every day is colder without you here with me. I don't know how long it's been, but I've been cooking for two, and the meals are going bad in the fridge. And I know I should have stopped long ago, but to acknowledge that would send me down a path I just don't want to go. Sweet whispers in the wind tell me that you'll be close again. So honey, won't you come back home? I've been really missing you. Honey, won't you come back home? Every day is colder without you here with me. I wish I could forget that note, the empty drawers and the cool wind blowing through that swinging door. And I guess it comes as no surprise. I just wish I had acted when I still had time. Sweet whispers in my head remind me of when we shared a bed. So honey, won't you come back home? I've been really missing you. Honey, won't you come back home? Every day is colder without you here with me. So honey, won't you come back home? I've been really missing you. Honey, won't you come back home? Every day is colder without you here with me. Every day is colder.
Beautiful. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.
And best of luck with the new album, honestly. I've already given it a listen. It sounds fantastic. And
Awesome.
I wish you, all the best.
Thanks so much, Tom. Thanks, everyone.
And next week we've got We Are Here and Rick Polari making a return to Big Heavy World to talk about Make Music VT, that wonderful festival that I was talking about earlier on today. So catch me next Wednesday. I've been your host, Tom Proctor. This has been Big Heavy World. And ciao for now.